Ladies and gentlemen, every time we have an election after 5 years, we elect more than 290 representatives of the people to go to the Kenyan parliament. But what happens that when these people get to parliament, they change and become different people. On this video here today, I want to dissect on that topic on what is in the Kenyan National Assembly. But before I do so, kindly if this is the first time you're watching our videos, make sure to subscribe, like and comment, because that is the best support you can always give this channel. Now, I want to give brief examples on what happens on the people that have been elected to parliament, and once they're there, they change. The first one, young parliamentarians, actually they're elected on the basis that they're going to fight for the youths in the National Assembly. Upon arrival, they don't even open their single mouths to talk about the problems that the Kenyan youths are experiencing. They don't come up with policies that are going to help youths solve some of the challenges they're experiencing in the society. To give an example, we have people like Salasia, we have people like Jalango, we have people like Jaguar, people who have gotten to parliament, and in all those occasions they have been there, there's nothing that they have said that is in support of the youth. If you check someone like KJ during the protest, this gentleman was against the protests that were held by Kenyan youths. And that is a youth who was elected to parliament. Despite the support he got from the youths before he got into parliament, still he forgot them and turned against the same youths. Now, another example, it is the women representatives that we have in the country. These women, whenever they're elected after every election, they go in the basis like they are going to, on the basis that they are going to fight for the rights and the challenges that women are experiencing in the country. First of all, the history of this city was that to bring women equality and leadership. And once they get there, the other thing they are supposed to do is to ensure at least they have championed for the rights and also the well-being of the women, not just in towns, but also back in the villages. But upon arrival in parliament, things change, and these women turn against their fellow women. To give an example, when we had the Finance Bill 2024, when women across the country, girls were saying reject the Finance Bill because it increased the cost of the pads that they use, these women turned against them and voted yes. That is another example that I've been looking at as far as changing in parliament is concerned. Another thing that I want to talk about here, it's the artists. In the parliament itself, we've had artists who have people who have been in the music industry, people who have been actors in various platforms, and then they gain some popularity. From that popularity, they're elected to become members of parliament. Once they arrive there, they don't even talk about anything that is going to improve the art industry of Kenya. They don't come up with even laws that are going to at least help even improve the income of some of these actors that they left in the streets. And then I ask myself, what happens to these youths when they get to parliament? Another one, it is the whole parliament itself. You realize that leaders, once they've been elected to go to parliament, they completely forget the people who elected them and put money and their friends ahead. What happens in such a scenario? To give an example here today, I want to talk about members of parliament who have been elected to go and serve the Kenyan people through making laws and oversight of the National Assembly or the national government. Now, upon arrival there, these people, there's no law that they make that it comes from them. Particularly in the current parliament, the laws that they make, all of them come from the executive. One thing that baffles me is that they don't care whether it hurts the common mwananchi or it does not. So they just pass the law regardless of the feelings of the Kenyan mwananchi. Now, I want to give another example here. When we had the Finance Bill 2023, there were issues that were touching the common mwananchi across all the 290 constituencies. And in these constituencies, we had things like housing levy, which most Kenyans refused. I want to give a very brief example here. We had the issue, for instance, of a teacher. A teacher who had gotten a loan of about 5 million, bought a piece of land and built a house. Right now, that teacher is straining to pay the loan. And actually, one of the things that is making the teacher to strain is the amount of money that is cut from his salary to pay the loans that he took to build a house and actually even buy the same land that where he built the house. But this teacher is told again, now some money has to be deducted from you to build a house somewhere else. When this teacher tried to complain, say, please don't do that, all these parliamentarians decided to vote against the will of this teacher. That is a member of parliament turning against his own people. Now, another case here, it is leaders unleashing goons to their electorate. You realize that, for instance, in Kisii, youths come out to demonstrate against the Finance Bill 2024. To counter these demonstrations, goons are sent to the street holding pangas, some of the machetes actually, some of them holding some long sticks that are used usually by the police to hit people, those sticks that are used to maybe hold the jembes, and many other crude weapons to beat, maim, and kill some of these youths in the streets. That is an an MP, a member of parliament, or a leader who is elected turning against his people who elected them. Then it comes to a question to this. What happens that these people, whenever they need votes, they humble themselves. But when they get to parliament, they turn against its people. Now, another thing that happens usually, it is that leaders get into parliament and their work is to serve the people. And in most cases, some of these leaders that get to parliament are pastors or even people who have been serving as church leaders across all divides of denominations. Actually, let me say religions. They could be a Muslim, could be a Pentecostal. When these people get to parliament, some of the things that we expect from these people is that at least they help in protection of the public funds. Public funds are always stolen in Kenya. Corruption is of the highest order, and we wanted corruption to end. But you find that despite being elected as a church leader, once they get to parliament, they get hold of this money, these people turn against the same people because they embrace the culture of stealing from the same Kenyans who elected them. These are people whose hopes from the Kenyan, these leaders, actually, Kenyans had huge hopes in them, so that at least once they're elected, they'll be able to be different from those others who have been there. But instead, they continue doing the same thing, which is against the same wananchi who elected them. I want to give an example, though not elective, but let me give an example of a leader of leaders who have been serving various capacities. For instance, the ESCC. Once a leader gets there, and this leader has been a church leader, is expected to deliver immensely. A leader who should be truthful and doing things on equal measure on any part, actually on anyone who is engaged in any form of corruption. But we realize these leaders, once they are there, particularly if you check the ESCC, that I'm very specific on this case, these people, they don't do anything as far as equality is concerned. Instead, they go to those that they're directed. A few people are the ones they go for. Yet corruption is all over the government offices. Now, another thing that I want to talk about here, it's the opposition. In the country right now, you realize that the opposition that has been, during an election in Kenya after every 5 years, leaders are elected. If the president is chosen from a certain party, the second party in the election actually takes up the opposition role as in the government. Now, when these people are elected, and those ones that are in opposition remain in opposition, people's hopes actually remain in the opposition to critique and also conduct equal checks and balances on the government. But these opposition themselves, they turn against the same people who give the position they have as the opposition. Instead, they go and join the government and continue the norm of stealing. If it is stealing, if it is poor governance, if it is corruption, it goes on. Then I ask myself this question: why do we have leaders standing against the people who elected them? Then what is this that is in parliament, the Kenyan parliament itself? Another thing I want to talk about here, it's the issue to do with it's an issue to do with the promises that are always in the elections. When a leader comes to the office, to the people on the ground for campaigns, they give very nice promises because they show a lot of understanding of what a common mwananchi is undergoing in the country. But once they get there, the promises they had, they put them aside and proceed to go and do what makes them happy and what benefits them. Then we ask this: what is in the Kenyan parliament that makes every leader abandons the people whom they should represent and go and represent their friends, themselves, their families, and their stomachs? That is the question I've left to you. My name is Abel Mukwa. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and comment, because that's the best support you can always give this channel.